Right then, everyone, if you could make your way back to your seats and we will crack on with the closing keynote. It's been a really sort of exciting day today, and certainly over the last 3 days talking about tech, and I'm really excited to welcome Jeremy White, who is from Wired magazine and also a futurist, and he will kind of guide us to our ending point in that journey back to the future of IT. So without further ado, please put your hands together for Jeremy.
Everyone. Can you hear me okay? Hear me all right? Okay. I'm not a futurist. I'm sorry to ruin the Back to the Future theme. I'm not a futurist. I don't like futurists. Futurists are people that come along and tell you that how everything's going to be in the next sort of 20 years, and they don't know. No one knows. And by the time they've been proved wrong or right, they're long gone. So what I like to do is Wired tries to actually give inspiration from what's actually happening right now in different business sectors, so you can see what sort of things are happening and what might be coming down the line in the next couple of years, next 5 years at the outset. So I'm going to try and do that for you today, and I'm going to try and make it, this is quite light and breezy. You know, congratulations, you've made it through the conference. I hear you were out quite late last night. So for those of you with sore heads, this is not going to be heavy on the thinking side. I'm not going to ask you to read unbelievable amounts of information on slides very quickly. This is trying to be a little entertaining, but also trying to tell you a little bit about what's happening in the world right now. Okay, how is the internet changing? How is technology changing? Here we have 60 seconds online compared to 2017 to 2018. And what most companies are going mental about is like, oh, what are we doing on Twitter? What are we doing on Facebook? What are our strategies for these? You know, universities are just the same. And what you can see there is actually those are static. People aren't using those. Not more people aren't using those. Same with YouTube. That's not going up either. Instagram, Netflix. If you look at those massive increases in those there, those are the ones that are actually seeing a major increase, not Twitter, not Facebook. So it's an interesting strategy to keep in mind. This is also quite revealing. This is the global brand index from 2000 to now. And these are the brands that have, you know, how they've actually moved in the last sort of 18 years, 17, 18 years. You can see, actually, strangely enough, nothing much happens until about 2008. Look at, I mean, look at Nokia, for Christ's sake. Unbelievable. So 2008, here it comes. There's Google. And look how quickly it goes up. Up it goes. Just in 2000, so 2008 to 2011, or 12, it's gone from bottom to top. Here comes Samsung. 2013, now we get Apple. Amazon comes in, 2014. And then Facebook sort of dances around a bit too. But you can see, and look how quickly Apple went right to the top. And so in the space of just the last sort of 15 years or so, you've seen a ridiculous change, and then now from the top 6, you've got 5 of those being technology companies, from being absolutely nowhere. So it's actually moving on remarkably well. How is this actually changing? We're talking about how people are actually using this sort of stuff, well, how your students are actually using it, how the businesses are actually using this sort of internet. People say it's mobile internet that actually, this is the rise of mobile internet and the decrease of TV. We've reached the limits of desktop internet. It's basically going all mobile now. This click is a little temperamental. I'm sorry about this. And global penetration here as well. This is from Ben Evans, who's an amazing analyst. I encourage you to look at his work. This here is global penetration of internet and smartphones. Now, we may have be reaching maturity for internet penetration and smartphone penetration, but it's actually e-commerce. If you think we live in this world of e-commerce now and people buying services and using services and transactional services online, you think we're in that age now, we're nowhere near it. We're nowhere near it. This graph is going to look like these, but we're not there yet. And that's what's going to happen now. The next stage is this e-commerce boom that's going to happen now. Where's it going to happen? Well, the spread of computers denotes some of that. When computers first became the being, really, personal computing, it was largely concentrated in the United States and Europe. Now China has more smartphones than Europe and USA combined. Likewise, the mobile data traffic, again, APAC, more than the rest of the world combined now in 2017. Spending power, where this money is actually being spent. The global middle class, again, just 2009, it was broken into mainly Europe and America. Now, global middle class, mainly APAC. And the spread of spending online, same again. So this is data showing you this spread, this movement towards Asia in many different ways, this movement towards spending online and increased power as well. This rise of AI is helping with all of this. I'm going to take you just to the break. You don't need to, by the way, this means nothing, don't worry about it. It does mean something, but I don't understand it either. What this basically means is your home computer, your $1,000 computer, has become 1 million times more powerful than it was in 1993. And that has led to the rise in artificial intelligence, this sort of massive increase in computational power for everybody. This started about 2007 or 7 or 8 years ago, actually, with ImageNet, and they wanted to try and tell you about how AI is developed so quickly, or just you know about AI, but trying to show you how quickly it's developed, is you want to look at things like visual recognition. Not only is it the fun side of AI, but also is very easy to show how it's moving along so quickly. So ImageNet took 15 million images and 22,000 categories and taught their neural network of computers how to categorize them. And you can see it learning. And it does this in milliseconds. Now, you go to just a little bit later. This is just in December 2017. So that was quite a while ago. Now 2017, NVIDIA, who make these chips in our computers, then started to be able to change winter images into summer images and sunny images into rainy images. And then they were able to do it live in video. And now we're at this stage. This is brand new. This is from DeepMind. None of these images are real. None of them ever existed. And you can actually spot it. The cheese goes a bit weird here, and the dog's eyes are a little funny. But you really have to look, but you can see. Here are additional, what they call simple classes. Again, none of these are real at all. And these were all created by DeepMind's AI. Now, there are easy classes, and there are the hard classes, and this is how it does with trombones and people. And you can see it goes completely bonkers. Trying to work these out. But it won't be very long before the hard classes look as good as the easy classes. And I say this is brand new from DeepMind as well. None of these people ever existed. This is a website you can go to right now, if you want to, if you're bored, and go to, this is, the actual address is thispersondoesnotexist.com. And every time you refresh the page, it generates a new random person. Now, you can spot these things quite easily, funnily enough. The eyes tend to be the same, teeth tend to be the same. Something weird's going on here. Look at the arm, don't know what the hell's happening there. But that's going to go better and better and better as well. And moving on from the talk we had, just not the one before last, we don't actually need any more those bank of 7 or so training images. This is just from one image. So that's all it needs to do to actually get through that. Sorry, I've gone and buggered that one up. So it's just taking that one image and is able to do this with it. So you don't even need 7 or 8 images anymore, you just need one. But it is recognizably weird and fake. There's something you can tell that's going on about it here. Anyway, it's interesting. How is this actually being used in businesses? And how could this be used in universities or in education? Like this is KFC in China using that technology to recognize its customers. So when you go in, it knows who you are and knows what you like to order and remembers it and then recommends other things for you as you go in. And so this is actually in play there. McDonald's have just bought a company, an Israeli startup called Dynamic Field, And that uses AIs to dynamically change menus depending on the weather, the time of day, the traffic. And it uses number plate recognition as you pull into McDonald's restaurants, so it knows again who you are, what you ordered. This idea of knowing your consumer, knowing the person you're actually servicing, is no longer just sort of like knowing them by a login detail. All these companies are doing it on a mass scale now. How is it used even further? This is a company called Emotion. Emotion was so impressive they got bought by Apple. Emotion uses that very same image recognition technology to look at you right now and to gauge, first of all, how many men and women in this audience, your socioeconomic group, your age range, how hungover you are right now, how bored you are right now, and it can tell all of these things. And what they wanted to use it, so a marketing company in the States wanted to use it to work out how many people were looking at the Jumbotron in the middle of the basketball stadium, I think this is. And what they wanted to do was work out who was in the audience and how many people were engaging with it. So what they did is they thought it would be much more men than women. Turns out it was actually not as, it was about a 60-40 split, men and women. So it wasn't as much geared towards men as they thought it was. But then interestingly, in breaks in play, all the men got up to go to the toilet, to get a drink or whatever, and the audience split to 80-20 towards women. So they changed the advertising. And they had a massive uptick in the process as well. Would not have been possible without this sort of technology. This is DeepMind's, Google's DeepMind as well, again, learning how to walk, with no data whatsoever on how to do so. This is it trying to work out whether to, whether a human form or just a stick person or some sort of weird crab-like thing, which is actually incredibly good at jumping, in fact, they found, this thing here, which is the best way to go. And so it actually ended up working out roughly how we walk, but in a very, very strange manner. I don't know whether we can be bothered to get through it to actually, there it is. What we're missing by not doing that as we're walking, I don't quite know. But apparently that's far better to walk that way than, so I might try it. Anyway, so we saw these earlier as well. This is Boston Dynamics. Now this is the real thing. Now I'm an optimistic person about the future. I'm not pessimistic, but so Boston Dynamics here is working in advanced in robotics. This is Atlas, it's human. You saw the fake video earlier. And this is Spot Mini, which uses that very same image recognition AI and machine learning to go around its entire HQ. This is a 30-minute video of it going up and down stairs, in and out of buildings, doing basically a patrol of Boston Dynamics headquarters. You can buy Spot Mini this year. This is not the future. This is right here, right now. Why you'd want to buy it, I don't know, and it would scare the living crap out of me if I came across it, but this is what they can actually do with this sort of technology right now. And they want these sorts of things to be absolutely everywhere. They used to make money, they used to make robots for the military, now they make them for universities, they make them for businesses. Anywhere that's got large campuses, this would be a very good thing to actually have. This is brand new as well. That's robotics, carefully modeled, excruciatingly well designed and thought out and tested and tested and tested. This is the other end of the scale. This is a robot in the University of Tokyo where they developed this, where using deep learning and just sticks, it works out itself how to walk. So rather than being taught how to walk and then learning on that process, it's just does it completely on its own. And they're thinking about this sort of technology for space missions where you don't actually need to take the robot up with you to Mars, for example, like that. You just take the bare essential materials and use the materials that are actually there to make the robot rather than take the robot with you. It's about payload, of course. Now, it looks a bit weird and funny, but they do actually get places. And as I say, that's literally just from the other day. So I wanted to show you some new stuff. AI is also being used in human resources, which I know is something that concerns people here. Amazon's system for tracking its warehouse workers can actually also automatically fire its workers. Employees are increasingly under pressure to pack hundreds of boxes per hour. Roughly 300 people were fired at a single facility between August 2017 and September 2018 for that very reason, not being able to keep up the processes. Now Amazon tracks every individual worker's productivity and automatically generates warnings and even terminations without any input from the supervisors. Managers can override this process if they choose to, and but this can actually be done completely using automation. Wider implications for Uber drivers, of course, and that's sort of other businesses as well. But this sort of thing we should be aware of. We're going to see more of it, of course. But there are other more positive implications for the use of AI in human resources. AI by a number of different companies now is being used to identify candidates for positions that have no direct relevance traditionally to those jobs. So for example, if you go looking for a new IT manager or a new researcher, you'll be looking for somebody, or your recruitment consultant will be looking for somebody who's done that job previously. This new model has found great success in finding people that have no prior experience in exactly what you're looking for, but their skill sets match it, and therefore the AI has identified very successful candidates that you would never have looked at had it been left to human thought processes. And there are a number of companies now doing this. And also, what's interesting about this is that Oxford University says we worry a great deal about automation removing jobs. Oxford University has said that back in 2013, that about 47% of jobs in the US in 2010 and 35% in the UK were high risk of being automated. But the OECD now puts that US figure at about 10%, and the UK is about 12%. So those estimates have actually been drastically reduced. So this is something very much worth noting, that these jobs, AI is not coming to take a great number of our jobs. What it's coming to do is actually augment a great number of our jobs. It's about making us work better, work more efficiently. Another interesting thing is how blockchain, telling you what blockchain is a whole other talk altogether, but I'm sure you understand the basics. Basically a distributed ledger or list that everybody has access to, and therefore very difficult to hack into. Not impossible, but very difficult to hack into, and of course the more people that use it, the more secure it becomes. But there are all sorts of things that can be used in the blockchain that's way beyond cryptocurrency, that is relevant to you rather than the financial world. So for example, a credential verification can be automatically done via the blockchain, rather than anybody actually saying, are their qualifications actually valid or not? Are they true or not? Reference checks, work history verification, decentralized recruiting, all of these things possible through blockchain technology. Other businesses are using blockchain technology for this very thing. There's something called the bricks chain, which is used just for the construction industry. They worked out if you're building a building, getting resources from one side of the world to the other side of the world, and also smart contracts, it becomes increasingly useful. And also the records of a building. Like if you wanted to knock down a wall over there, for example, if you'd sold this building, this hotel, say 10 or 15 times, no one might know what's behind that wall there. But if it was all on the blockchain, it would be there forever, and you can have a building's records in perpetuity. And so the bricks chain is just one example. There's food delivery. There's ones for food delivery as well. All sorts of places. The legal world is using AI. It's called Luminance, this is one example, to read legal documents so your lawyer doesn't have to. Everybody normally employs lawyers and you pay them by the hour. Luminance reads a complex legal document and spits out a 4 or 5 page document, which is then presented to your lawyer, and they say, these points are the points you need to look at and verify and check. And all it does is it doesn't replace what the lawyer is doing, it frees them up to do the proper law that you're actually paying them for, the creative law, working out exactly how to do this. Net-a-Porter Group are doing that, where you buy their clothing, they're doing exactly the same thing with their online buying assistants, or actually their personal shoppers. The personal shoppers at Net-a-Porter are the people that you get if you're an extremely important person for them. And these are customers that spend up to $70,000 per year. And so this new AI-generated version of a personal shopper is going to be aimed directly at them. Why is this important? These customers are only 2% of Net-a-Porter's business, but they're 40% of their revenue. So focusing on exactly the right people to address with this sort of technology is absolutely key. The next point to mention is voice recognition, or voice. If you're not investigating at least how to gear up your businesses or universities or institutions for the coming sort of avalanche of voices interface, then you should be at least considering it. Voice recognition didn't even work in 1995, completely didn't work at all, but by 2017 IBM said we'd reached human parity, which is a fancy way of saying a 5% error rate, the same error rate you and I have as we talk to each other and misunderstand each other. Now, this has led rise to this sort of thing, and we all know how dodgy, not dodgy, but how temperamental these sorts of devices are. Here's a good clip to illustrate it.
It's not always easy having a North Wales accent. Google announced this week that they're launching a new device to rival Amazon's Alexa. Now, controlled by voice recognition, the smart device is able to answer any questions by searching the internet and also control smart home devices such as lights. All this is wonderful news, unless, of course, you sound like my North Walian wife. I bought her one of these devices for Christmas. Now, one of the great pleasures of life is listening to my wife trying to converse with Alexa. Alexa! What time does Marks and Spencer's open on a Sunday?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
What time does Marks and Spencer's open on a Sunday?
Okay, you want me to search for a Karl Marx ice cream sundae?
No!
Now, it's funny because it's just an illustration, but it is actually true. These sorts of things do misunderstand. We're a Model T Ford country with this sort of thing, but it is, if you think about how quickly visual AI went on, if you don't think that's going to be even faster with this sort of voice recognition, then you're fooling yourselves, really. This is going to come a long way very quickly. A good example, actually, if anyone's got Sky Q here, Sky Q's got a really good voice interface on the remote control. That was not turned on when it was launched because it couldn't understand the Welsh accent. That's absolutely true. They didn't have enough data. It took them about 4 or 5 months to get enough data, then they turned it on because it could understand the Welsh accent. So that joke is not actually that far out of the play. Our earlier talk would have told you here about some of the dangers of these sort of devices. Indeed, an Alexa was, last year, was recording a couple's argument in their kitchen in the United States. It recorded the argument. During the course of that argument, it thought it heard its wake word, Alexa, started to record the argument. Then during that argument, they mentioned one of their friends. Alexa then looked up their friends in the contact book and sent the argument to their friend. Now, that's the bit where, if I was trying to scare you, that's the bit I would stop at here and just say, look at that. Isn't that terrible? This sort of thing can happen. The thing to focus on is not that. The thing to focus on is that the very next day, Amazon sent out a patch that fixed the problem so that particular thing could not happen again. This sort of stuff is, as I say, Model T Ford country. We're going to find these things constantly, but they will be able to be actually addressed if the company is willing to do so very quickly as well. This is Google things. You've seen this is from a year ago. This is Google's Duplex, which is its new generation voice assistant, making a voice call to a hair salon and booking an appointment where the person on the other end of the line has no idea they're talking to a computer. And it puts in ums and ahs, and that sort of syntactical jumble in which we speak to try and deliberately fool the person on the other end of the line that they're actually talking to a human rather than a computer. Now, it's successful. There are lots of examples where it's not successful. That was just a year ago, and now it's already in operation. This is the launch advert for it. It's already in operation in a couple of jurisdictions in the United States.
Book a table for two at El Cocotero on Tuesday at 7. All right, just in case that's not available, can I try between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m.?
Sure.
All right, I'll call to book under your name and phone number, and I'll update you in the next 15 minutes. Is that okay?
Perfect, thanks.
El Cocotero, how may I help you?
Hi, I'm the Google Assistant calling to make a reservation for a client. This automated call will be recorded. Can I book a table for Tuesday the 12th?
Okay, cool. And how big is the party?
It's for 2 people.
Great. And when did you say they want to come in?
Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Okay, let me check.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have 7, but we can do...
Okay, so on it goes. But basically that's in a year. So if you think this sort of advent of using voice interface is going to be still a good few years off, it's not. It's going to happen. That was just in a year. Like from blowing people's minds at Google's Expo a year ago to actually being available on the market. Now, of course, it's going to be more clunky than they say in the videos and than they actually use in real life, but you cannot deny that rate of speed of change. And if you ignore it, that's when you come into trouble. This is another really good example of businesses using this sort of technology to gain massive competitive advantage. It's outside of the educational world, but this is a company called Orbital Insight, and they use satellite imagery and wash it through visual AI to try and work out how different companies in different sectors are performing on the stock market or just as analysts, basically. They look at things like sort of things you can see from above, from the earth. They look at oil reserves, water reserves, agricultural crop performance. They also look at construction projects. How can they tell how quickly buildings are being built from directly above? They use their AI to monitor how much shadow the buildings cast as they're built as they go up. And this is it actually counting the number of cars in US shopping malls. Because they worked out that if you count the number of cars in US shopping malls, you can directly correlate how successful that particular company is going to perform in its next stock reports. And this is J.C. Penney in the States, very large chain of shopping malls. And they worked out, Orbital worked out that there was a massive drop in cars coming at the end of 2016 to their shopping malls. And at the start of 2017, J.C. Penney did indeed announce a massive drop in profits and that they were closing 138 stores in the US. If you want to see how close the correlation is, that's it there. Car count versus stock price. Just one implementation of this sort of technology. That is very clever and very simple in terms of how the data it can actually produce. Other things as well that might be, if you're dealing with any customers, whether it be students or anybody else, is BD Fuel Travel is a company that uses a white label, that produces a white label product that sits behind websites and learns what your customers actually want or do. This is in particular, it's done for travel services. So what it does, unlike when you go to a travel website right now and you say, I want a holiday in the Maldives, and all you get is 17 other holidays in the Maldives, because all it recognizes is the fact that you wanted a holiday in the Maldives. Much like when AI, I told you earlier about how it was used to spot people outside of sectors that would still be really good for you, even though you don't recognize it. BD4 Travel spends about a year in the background on the website monitoring what people are doing on the site and what they like and what they don't like, and it produces suggestions that you would never have considered for holidays. Now you think, so not just holidays in the Maldives and so on like that, but the thing is, its conversion rate is incredibly high. They increased their conversion rate after a year. Their online conversion rate is increased by 40%. 40%. Because they're using a radically different model of actually recommending these sorts of things. This can be done in all sorts of things, classes, courses. You've even got AI beer now. This is beer made using AI. This is on the backs of these labels, you scan a code and you tell the company what you think of the beer and how you would like to change it, or what you would like about it, what you didn't like about it. And they use AI. AI, as you know, is a brilliant way of filtering enormous amounts of data down to very simple statements so you can work out what to do with it, filtering it. What they do is they change their recipe depending on what the people actually want. Like Coca-Cola doesn't change its recipe for something like, 20, 30, 40 years at a time. Intelligent X, who makes these beers, changed their, in the first year, they changed their recipe 11 times, each time seeing an uptick in sales. Again, this is, using this sort of technology in its nascent form, its basic form at the moment, to really get competitive advantage. This is Viv. If you think your phone is intelligent now, and this is from 2016, this is Viv, and Viv is a personal assistant on your phone, like Siri. In fact, these guys made Siri and then sold it to Apple, and then they made Viv, and then they sold Viv to Samsung. So you can imagine how rich they are. And Viv doesn't go to the internet when you ask it a question on your phone. Viv writes its own program, which is what this is, it's doing here, live on the phone as you ask it a question in order to answer that question in a much better way. So it can answer much more complex questions than anything you can do right now on the phone. So this was a live demonstration on stage. So will it be warmer than 70 degrees near the Golden Gate Bridge the day after tomorrow? And after 5 p.m. the day after tomorrow, and it got it right. The next demonstration, he said live on stage, was, can you book me a 4-star hotel room in the Monterey Bay area the weekend after Labor Day? And it did. And the reason you haven't seen this yet is because Samsung have bought it. There's none of this in Bixby. Samsung bought this, and it only works in US English. And they're a Korean company. So this has to work in every language. I hope we get to see it, but this sort of thing is already possible. Imagine that sort of thing at a university with all the students actually coming around saying, actually detailed questions about what they would actually like to do, or the information that can actually do it. We're going to come to chatbots in a minute, and that sort of thing is going to be used for that sort of thing too, very similarly. We'll bump through these. Mobile phones, why people are talking about mobile phones and businesses on mobile phones, this is why they're becoming so popular. You saw that graph earlier about how more and more mobile phones are being used rather than desktop computers. This is the battleground for all businesses now, all companies, all institutions. Now, these companies here are boring companies. They're bed companies. But this is, this is a 1.5, they went from nothing to be a $1.5 billion industry just in 4 years. And they did it through just marketing, through Instagram and online. And this is what we're seeing right now with all these things called the disruption of mundane products, like razors and all things like that, food boxes that wouldn't be interesting. All this sort of thing is being possible. The financial sector, this is Acorn, which basically takes everything you buy and it rounds up the number. Say you bought a coffee for £1.50, it rounds it up to £2 and puts it into an investment fund that you set up on your phone with 4 clicks. It's there to try and pull in the younger generation into the investment world where they can be completely apathetic and not interested in the slightest. It's gamification of the investment world. And it's doing incredibly well as a result of it too. All the things going on. WhatsApp are doing, in India they're trialing payment processes right now as well. Just back in April they've started doing that. And what's interesting is that a lot of these companies with these WhatsApp these chatbots that we've been talking about, and lots of companies have, they try and actually mirror human conversation and human interaction, but that's actually the wrong way to go most of the time. These are the 2 major ones in Asia, Line and WeChat, and they are integrated into society there way more than they are here. People go into these apps at the start of the day and they stay in them all day and they never come out of them. You can do absolutely everything in these apps over there. So their version of Spotify, Line Music, is in the app. Their version of Uber is in the app. You don't come out of it. And you can ask these apps to do much more complicated things. You can apply for and get a mortgage on WeChat. You try doing that on WhatsApp. These are much more sophisticated, but they are not having dialogues particularly. They are actually calls to action, buttons pressed and things like that. It's a Western interpretation of this sort of chatbot mentality that we are having to have some sort of conversation. China Merchant Bank uses WeChat's messenger bot to handle 1.5 to 2 million customer conversations per day. 1.5 to 2 million customer messages per day, and it's only going to increase. This idea of having a conversation is something we're obsessed with over here. TransferWise bot is very successful. You answer 4 questions, you can send money anywhere in the world. But if you ask it who won the Euro 96 championships, it's got no idea what you're talking about. And that's when the scales fall from the eyes of the customer and they go, okay, I'm not talking to somebody. What's the point here? Tay was the first experiment by Microsoft to actually get around this. They tried to give Tay a degree of machine learning, a degree of artificial intelligence, where you go, okay, you know, ask it a question and it'll try and have a conversation with you. There was no money making involved here. It was literally meant to be like a friend in your pocket, a personality in your pocket that you could talk to. The trouble was, after 3 months, Tay started to become racist, and eventually they had to turn it off. And they have no idea why. They just literally had to turn it off and start again. Facebook right now is trying to do that very same research with applying AI and machine learning to chatbots. There's loads of reasons to do this. A number of companies now are trying to use chatbots to assess, for example, to assess whether a customer is having a particular problem with an incident or is a problem on a call, and then they get branched off to a specialist or an actual human to talk to. If they can nail this, this is a massive saving for all sorts of industries. But what Facebook are doing here is that they're working with the Georgia Institute of Technology and say, well, okay, if we've got all these chatbots, if we gave them AI, what will happen? So they gave their chatbots the data from 6,000 human conversations and wanted them to then to negotiate between divvying up a set of a pile of resources of differing monetary values. They wanted them to negotiate and win. But the first parameter was they wanted them to actually have the most human-like conversation possible. And when in that first parameter, they actually did have a long, quite boring conversation. They were overly willing to compromise. The conversation never really got anywhere, but they were very nice to each other. When they pulled in the second parameter for the test, which was to maximize reward, i.e. to win this negotiation, something very interesting happened. I'll read it to you. The team found incidences of the model feigning interest in a valueless issue so it could later compromise by conceding it. Deceit is a complex skill that requires hypothesizing the other agent's beliefs and is learned relatively late in child development. Our agents, the bots, have learned to deceive without any explicit human design whatsoever, simply by trying to achieve their goals. So in short, the bots learn to lie. Now, there's nothing bad going on. Again, if I wanted to scare you, that's where I'd stop. There's nothing bad going on here, though, because they were never told that they had to tell the truth, and they were never told that they actually had to continue speaking in English. They actually ended up developing their own language as they were having this negotiation, because it was much more efficient than using English. They were just told they were doing what they were actually told to do. It was the instruction that they were following. And that's where this conversation has to go. If you want to talk ethically, this conversation you're talking about is like, it's imperfect instruction. What we actually want these things to do. They can't read our minds. We tell them what to do, and they'll go ahead and do it. And the problems are, when you employ this sort of technology, even if it's IoT technology or anything like that, you do open yourselves up to unforeseen circumstances. This is Strava. I don't know if any of you are runners. This is Strava, and you get these heat maps on Strava about where you've been. This structure here, somewhere in England, doesn't exist on any map in the UK. And the MOD got in touch with Strava and said, for Christ's sake, you've got to take this down immediately. And it turns out that this is a heat map produced by a group of Special Forces soldiers that decided that they want to publicly share where they trained, how often they trained, who they trained with, and how fit they were with anybody who wanted to see. This kidney-shaped thing here is probably the running ground in the middle of the track. And so they said, you've got to take this down immediately. Strava had no idea that this was going to be an implication of these heat maps when they brought in the technology. Fortunately for me, someone screen grabbed this before they took it down. You run tech systems. You know how some of those systems haven't been updated in quite considerable periods of time. This is British Airways. British Airways, just last year got into terrible trouble, giving away 380,000 booking transactions, the data from 380,000 booking transactions just between August 20th, 21st and the September 5th. And it turns out that it was a very easy way into the system. What they realized that on the baggage handling part of the website, they managed to insert code, just 22 lines of code, that allowed them to maliciously grab the data from the customers in the payment form. This particular part of the website, not other parts, but this particular part of the website had not been updated in 14 years. Basic stuff we're still seeing time and time again from companies on this sort of thing. I haven't even got time to talk to you about what's coming next with computing. This is quantum computing. The idea that computers that now obviously act on zeros and ones, these act on zeros and ones, and therefore much more efficient. And all our data is encrypted and protected. That's really just complicated maths, very complicated maths. It takes a lifetime for us computers today to actually break. Quantum computers will be able to break encryption standard now in maybe 3 months, maybe less. So we have to develop different types of encryption coming. This is the chips. Look at the number of patents being filed in quantum computing, mostly in China. This is IBM's first standalone quantum computer. And so they exist now. They already existed anyway, like an atomic clock is a quantum computer. But there is your first standalone quantum computer. It's quite large. That's it there. But if you remember how quickly it was, we went from massive rooms, a computer that filled an entire room, down to one that you could carry in a briefcase. It won't take very long before this to come down as well. Much the same case as well. And this sort of thing is happening. Technology we ran a story recently in Wired about how technology was, this society was directly affecting students as well. Students are now being hit by a wave of essay writing scammers, which we thought was quite interesting. The inbox of one Chinese student hints at the scale of this issue, actually. Over the past year, one inbox received 97 emails from 55 different fraudulent essay writing services. Freedom of Information requests submitted to every UK university since September 2017 showed a total of 528,000 emails from those 55 email addresses had been delivered to inboxes they control. So only 84% of the universities responded, but only 55 specific email addresses were known in the request, so they were the only ones that were surveyed. So you can imagine that the real total is considerably higher than that. The emails written in Mandarin are directed to the point. They say things like, the legendary paper writer to help you stay in school, one company markets itself as. They also offer a no plagiarism guarantee, that the essay will make it through Turnitin, a plagiarism detection program that many universities employ to prevent students from copying sections of their work from the internet. And the emails also boast 100% pass rates and achieving a 2-1 standard on 83% of the time. The standard charge for a 500-word essay is around 560 quid, with discounts offered for longer pieces of work. So it's really going on here. One essay dealer claims to oversee 80 essay writers operating in the UK and abroad, who overall earn £226,000 per year. We have many types of advertising methods, he says. As well as emailing students' inboxes directly, companies also advertise their services through Chinese social networks, including WeChat, Tencent, and QQ. You're only going to see more of this as well. The personalization of education. Ken Robinson, who's an international consultant on education and Professor Emeritus at the University of Warwick, wrote a piece for Wired. You can read it online. It's a really good piece. And he extols the virtues of how we're in the age now of personalized medicine and personalized other areas of technology as well. It should be areas of personalized education too, rather than standardization, which is breaking education as far as he's concerned. It's a very good essay. I urge you to read it. And lastly, this is a good example of, if you actually get the technology right, the excitement you can engender and the following that can actually happen from it. This is not a natural disaster or anything like nasty as that. This is a bunch of people in Taiwan playing Pokemon Go. I kid you not. When Pokemon Go came out, Nintendo was valued much less than Sony, but within 2 days of launch, according to Bloomberg, Nintendo increased its value by $7.5 billion in 2 days. recognizing that this sort of technology, augmented reality, virtual reality, it's already being used in education, you know that. It's already being used in business. The Norwegian army trains its soldiers using virtual reality right now and augmented reality. This, again, is another area of technology that is going to rapidly increase in process. This sort of program is very, very simple. It's going to get much better. Again, Model T forward country. All these things here, AI, chatbots, virtual reality, augmented reality, these are all at beginnings. We're not in this massive tech age yet. It feels like it, but we're only just starting on that journey. 1983, this phone was launched, the first mobile phone. And AT&T, which is like America's version of BT, went to McKinsey's and asked them if this was going to be a threat to their business. Should they take note of this sort of stuff happening in the business landscape? And they said, oh yeah, we do think you should take note of this. We reckon by the end of the century, there'll be 1 million mobile phones in operation. So they massively lowballed it. At least they realized it was going to be a problem. In 2004, Fortune magazine went back to AT&T and asked if they thought that Skype was going to be a problem for their business, and the CEO dismissed it as a toy. In 2010, the New York Times interviewed the CEO of Time Warner and asked them if they thought that Netflix was going to be a problem for their company. And he said this: is the Albanian army going to come and take over the world? I don't think so. Think back to that first slide I showed you about that massive increase of Netflix and usage on there as well. All of this stuff I've shown you, and I've tried to give you direct examples, business examples of stuff that's happening right now. None of this is futurology. This is all stuff that's happening right now. And it's only the beginning. And actually, if you do prepare yourself for these sorts of things, rather than stick your head in the sand and say, this is not going to be a problem, or this is not going to be an issue, or there isn't an opportunity here for us, then you're in serious trouble. It's for the people such as yourselves that are here listening, and the people that do want to actually do something about it, then actually there's tremendously brilliant opportunity, and the future is very bright indeed. AI is not coming to take your life. It is coming to save it. I think so anyway. But thank you very much indeed. Sure, yeah.
Are there any questions for Jeremy?
Good.
You're obviously talking to a room full of people who are very, very interested in what you have to say. But how often are you asked to talk to the really high echelons of universities, to the vice-chancellors and the people that these guys have to influence?
That's a very good question. I'm not.
That's about to change.
Yeah. I'll give you a direct example. I was very surprised recently to be asked by the board of HSBC to come in and talk to their board, 12 people, the global board, and say, look, this is what's going on and this is what you might want to be interested in. A couple of those people were not interested. There was one old guy on the end that actually I think fell asleep. But the point was that the CEO was very interested and engaged and wanted to learn and wanted to do things about it. I mean, and these sorts of things have to come from the top. Chancellors, people who run the universities, it has to come from the top. There's a really good example of a blockchain technology being used in business. You all know the high street travel agents called TUI. TUI is run by a visionary CEO who realized that he could use blockchain technology to put their entire global inventory of hotel rooms on the blockchain. What they'd done previously was that they'd had different servers all around the world, and as a result of that, it meant that they had imperfect knowledge between jurisdictions, and they were selling, say, a hotel room here at Queen's Hotel at different prices all around the world. Not the same price, at different prices. They had a poor inventory of what was in the hotel room. Different markets like different things, like the Norway and Scandinavian markets like to know apparently if there's a ceiling fan in a room. I don't know why, but they do. And they want a much more detailed inventory. So what he worked out was if they put the entire inventory on the blockchain, where everybody, if something is updated, it's updated live everywhere. Not only would they save an enormous amount of money not hosting their own servers, their physical servers themselves, but also they would stop this selling of hotel rooms at different prices across the world. And not only that, then they realized that by doing so, they could take money direct from the consumer, circumventing the banks, and also the aggregator channels like Trivago, Booking.com, Hotel.com, that were eating their lunch as well. And it saved them an enormous amount. I mean, you know, tens of millions, maybe 100 million, in the first year. It saved them an absolute fortune. It was so successful that Microsoft got in touch with them saying, we'd like you to do this with other businesses. And they said, no, we're fine with it. We're doing it on our own at the moment. That was driven from the very top down. And that's when you see real change in corporations and in institutions, when it's actually driven from the very top. If it's done from a situation where the management or the board turn around and just task this sort of fundamental levels of change within industry and an institution with people in a lower sector or in a lower division in the company, and just say, okay, just go ahead and do it, implement it, and then come back to us and report. Those are never as successful. It has to be driven from the top down. And time again, I can give you many more examples where it comes from the top, and if it does, then it's much more successful. And so I really do wish that there would be, getting asked into universities to see how we can actually do this, because there's many things that could be changed. But we're also dealing with people maybe of a different generation.
And that's it. It's about targeting your message to that very different generation so that it actually cuts through. But we'll see if we can find you an opportunity to do just that.
Cool. My dad went on Facebook when he retired, and he thought Facebook was one giant online conversation and started just joining everybody's conversations. And I literally had to drag him away from the computer saying, you can't do that. It's not for you. Anyway. Is that it, guys? Okay. Thanks very much indeed.
Right, we've come to the end. I will try and keep this as short and sweet as possible. I appreciate people are probably hungry, tired, and would like to go home. But there are some really important things to sort out first. The awards! Can anyone remember back to the Treasure Trail? It was quite a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We had the Treasure Trail that was devised by Andy and by Antonia, and everybody was really enthused and quite competitive to a scary nature. But there can only be one winner, but I believe we've got a prize for Booby Prize.
Booby Prize, social media prize.
Oh God, there's loads.
And we've got the overall.
Right, let's do the Booby Prize first. Right. Who came last and all had?
No, they didn't come last. They just didn't get as many points.
Didn't get many points. Tried very hard prize.
So the Booby Prize, we have Fleet of Foot.
There's somebody.
Would you like to come collect your prize? There was no losers, everyone was a winner. You actually made it to the end. We had 3 people that didn't even make it there.
I think there's somebody still out there somewhere.
Just give it to myself.
I'll do you on the same time. Well done, well done. Right.
Well done. For social media, we did debate this quite a lot, but I'm thinking Suze the Chameleon had a proper sesh of a night. So we've got it, get it on like Donkey Kong, social media winner. Woo! But this is where it gets tense. We actually have 2 teams that got the exact same amount of points. Very enthusiastic. We had one that did it completely with tech. So they actually did it all on the phones before they actually left, and then just ran round to the bits that they needed to. And then we did have a last minute one as well. I think they were just got in there The phone had actually died. So we did have to sort of say, right, we're going to check everything again in the morning. So I need to do a tiebreaker for Lost in Leeds and Marty and the McFlys.
Can we get one representative from each team to come up here, because we're going to do the tiebreaker? If they're here, hope they're here.
Right.
That's when you get up early, do
Dun, dun,
Right.
dun.
No pressure, no pressure. Right. Keeping the theme, this is going to be the nearest answer gets it. So, Andrew Ridgeley was in Wham. When they split, he released his only album, and it absolutely bombed. What number did it reach in the US Billboard chart? No Googling, no Googling, no semaphore or anything like that. Start with the gentleman first. What number did it reach in the US Billboard chart?
I'm going to go for 118.
118.
I was going to go higher than that. I was going to go... Sorry? 38 I was going to go for.
Correct answer was 130.
We also cannot confirm or deny that there was a quote in Brewdog. So
It's still out there.
it's somewhere, but we have disqualified that question. So as we made you go in Brewdog.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll rattle through the rest of the awards, and this is kind of the lottery where I hope the people that we've picked are still here or they haven't gone home. So really going first, this was the best delegate presentation from yesterday celebrating success. There was only 3, so it was quite difficult to pick, but we had to pick one. So we picked Catherine from Unidesk, if you're still here. Right, next one was the new award for this year, the best tweet from the hashtag USSC19. It was actually a difficult one, and it wasn't until last night that we actually found the best tweet, and that tweet is from Victoria. Assisted by Wayne. Well done. Best delegate contribution now. Again, this was influenced by last night, but it was across the whole of the conference. This person, not only did they do a presentation yesterday, one of the parallel sessions, but they contributed quite profoundly to some of the questions and answers we had through yesterday. But I think what swayed it for me again was once the dust had settled on the night last night, he was the only person still in his 80s shell suit, complete with wig. So can I ask David from the back to come up, please? And best newcomer. This one was actually decided quite early on, and we were right in the decision we made from the first day. This person had enthusiasm in buckets and had quite a profound effect on us as well. I wasn't a judge, but these guys were judges of the treasure trail. But that continued through the night and equally through yesterday evening as well. Now, I think she is here. I'm not quite sure, but I know I've seen her colleague. Is Hannah here from Manchester Met? There was something about you having a bit of a lie-in, but I'm not going to mention that. And you may notice that there's an award missing. Of all this planning and all this kind of stuff, we forgot to sort out the takeaways, so they kind of made a book and it wasn't very good. But something else happened last night, lots of things happened last night, is we had the costume competition, and Wayne won that, and that was done through Happy Signal, which was great. And one of the things that we couldn't do is have any of the committee won that award, because that's not fair. But after the event and all the way through the evening, there was a groundswell of support from the people for someone on the committee to win something. So, although it is engraved with the Best Takeaway Award, this is probably the Costume Contest People's Champion Award. And that goes to Sarah, a.k.a. Elliot. There was always one final thing, is with being a chair of the conference, you have great power and just great power. And I decided to make up another award on the hoof because it was one thing. And it was it's a technical one. And it works. Best Virtual Delegate. This year we've had loads of conversations going on Twitter for people that are not even here. So I need to shout out to Martin McKenna, who's been really hot on Twitter, and Sally Bogg, I know she was here last night, she was talking. But there's one individual who has been watching the stream, he's been tweeting, and he's also been cooking. He was the one person that cooked SSG chocolate cakes from his home. And well, the conference wouldn't be complete without mentioning Gareth Edwards. So Gareth, if you're watching, there will be a trophy in the post on its way to you. So thank you very much, Gareth. I'll hand over to Al now, who's going to give you a little bit of an update, really short update about what we're doing in SSG.
Yeah, guys, I promised to be quick, sorry. So for those who haven't managed to meet, Alistair Reid-Pearson from the University of Huddersfield, I co-chair the Support Services Group with Lisa MacDonald. We kind of represent all of you as a community, as far as support services professionals go. We've got an amazing committee that do amazing things, and I think this conference has been amazing, and I kind of want to have a bit of a shout out to Tim and the conference organising committee for doing such a fantastic job. I've had a blast for these last 3 days, and I'm sure you guys have as well. Just to kind of highlight some of the things that we've done as a committee over the past year. So we had a really successful joint community day with the infrastructure group on desktop and print, because we felt the desktop and print guys were a bit of a lost in the middle group, so we joined up with the infrastructure group and we did a really good community day. It was very successful and we hope to run another one in the future, so that was really good. And we've done some updates as well, or we're doing some updates to the communication tools kit, that's right, they're on their way, wherever around is. And this conference as well. I'd also like to thank, as well as Tim and the organising committee for the conference, I'd like to thank you guys as a community. I don't think the past few days would have been anything if it wasn't for the fabulous people that are in this room and already made their way to the trains. So thank you very much. It's been fantastic. On to the committee. We've got a few spaces because some people have left the industry. It wasn't that we were horrible to them. They left because they left higher education. So we have some spaces on what is an amazing committee. So if you're interested in being part of the team that put on events like this, then I'd encourage you to apply for to come onto the conference, to come onto the UCISA Support Services Committee. All we want is just a few paragraphs of who you are, why you're awesome, and kind of why you want to get involved with this to the admin, UCISA admin mailing list, which is admin@ucisa.ac.uk. I got that right, didn't I? Yeah, fab, thanks. So yeah, admin@ucisa.ac.uk. So if you want to be part of this amazing group, please apply. That's it for me, really. Back over to Tim. Thank you.
He's already stole half my thunder. There are other thank yous. I need to thank, and I haven't written them on this, and I feel really bad, the AV team at the back, because they've been spot on all the way through this. I need to thank all the exhibitors you've met downstairs. I think the guy from Linux Sue's has been such a great sport with the fact they kidnapped his the chameleon, or dragon as they were calling it, on Tuesday night. Exactly. But no, the exhibitors have been great. You've still got a chance to maybe have a chat with them before you leave today, so please do so if you haven't done. I need to thank all the speakers we've had today, plus all the way through. It's been absolutely amazing. There's some really good, really interesting talks, not only in the R industry, but in the wide world, so it's really, really good. I need to thank the UCISA team, Nick and Sian at the back there, and Peter. They've been wonderful. We've got a little something for Sian, because Sian has been spot on with helping us run this conference. She's kept us in line, kept us on budget when we were going to try and get Barry from EastEnders to be your keynote speaker. She stopped us doing that. So Sian, do you want to just come up and we'll just give you a little something? We have flowers that are train proof. I'm quite chuffed with this. There should be a mug as there as well. See, look, you can't get the staff, can you? There we go. Thank you very much. You've been great. Obviously, my colleagues on the committee, Al's already done it, thank you very much, all the effort, all the mic running, everything else like that. I think they're all here and still standing near enough, so that's pretty impressive. And you, he's already mentioned it once. Again, when I was just doing this as a delegate, I used to love coming to these conferences, and it's been really great being a conference organiser and seeing everyone get involved, whether it's treasure hunt, tweeting, or just genuinely being involved in all the questions. It's been really good. So give yourself a round of applause. But it's that time of the sort of conference where we as SSG have to do a little bit of a love-in. There are people that have left, and there is someone here who is actually in the room who is leaving. So I think there's a video. Is it ready to go? And we'll just go and play this, and then we can let you go on your merry way. Ooh, spoiler there. Go for it. So there you go. I need to say it's a shame that Kath, Gordon and Tony can be here, but it's really nice to, we've got someone who we can sort of say bon voyage to. I won't go into detail because I'm very conscious of time, but there's one memory that really stands out for me, and this is kind of when I realised how good SSG was. We had a planning meeting a couple of years ago, and we stayed in Oxford, and we actually got to stay in the halls in Oxford, and we got to have breakfast in one of these, like the old-fashioned halls, you know, and it was like 16th century kind of building. So we're all sat there having breakfast, and they had one of those toast machines like they've got downstairs in the hotel where you put the toast in and you let it go around. And this individual decided to put their toast in more than once. And it became very apparent that there was this smell of burning, and gradually black smoke was billowing out of this toaster. And I looked over at the poor little young server who was just transfixed and thinking, on my watch, 16th century building is going to burn down. And till that day, every time I see one of those toasters, I always giggle because it was one of those things that you can't replicate. And that's it. So really, without further ado, I'll just ask Sarah to come up and say a big bon voyage. And there we are. Thank you very much again. The USSC 20 will return, and I think I'm allowed to say we're going to return in Cardiff. So look forward to that. Until then, safe journey home, and thank you very much again.